name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca Jorge, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is in the world, wherever you are tuning in from. My first question for you, Renata, is did you manage to click live on Instagram?
Yes, I click it now.
Great. So your audience and our audience at Talking Tennis will both be in unison, and I can already see that that is working just fine. For those following us on Twitter as well, you can join us, and YouTube as well. Get in the live chat, get in the comment section. Also on Twitter, on Instagram, and Twitch as well. And let us know if you have any questions for Renata. Some of those will, of course, happen naturally during the show. And just let us know your thoughts. We're going to be talking to Renata a little bit about... Oh, first of all, am I saying your name correctly? I'm saying Renata.
Yes, yes.
I'm trying to do it in that sort of Brazilian Portuguese way.
Yes, hi, John, and hi, everybody. Thanks for this opportunity to talk a little bit about tennis and about my career. Yes, my name is, you're saying correctly, Renata. Yes, a little bit of, if you can, you can say a little bit of accent, Brazilian accent, Renata.
Renata.
Renata, yes.
I have studied Portuguese a little bit, Renata.
Really? That's great.
Yeah. Eu falo pouco português.
Ai, que legal, olha só.
Yeah. Eu falo mais portunhol que português, porque falo espanhol.
Olha só, dá para fazer em português, então.
Próxima vez falamos em português, but this time we will do it in English.
Okay.
Renata, give us a little bit of an introduction as to who you are, both from your tennis career and then through to your broadcasting career.
Yes, I live in São Paulo. I'm from Brazil, and I was a professional tennis player for some years. I made 5 points in WTA, and I play in juniors. I used to play well in Brazil in national tournaments. One time I was Brazilian champion in juniors, and I also played Universiade. I don't know if you know what it is. It's a competition. No. It's like Olympic Games for university students.
Okay.
Because I've studied journalism and physical education in college.
Got it.
And so I took part in one Universiade in South Korea in 2003, and the other one in Turkey, 2005. What else? I played in many countries, Romania, Argentina, I don't know. I played in Nigeria too to make points.
Okay. Wow.
In Nigeria, Israel, Hungary.
What was Renata? Tell us about. So you've been all over the world, Israel and Nigeria and many other countries. Was there a particularly bad court that you played on? Like, this is the worst court I've ever played on.
When you play futures, sometimes the courts are not so perfect, you know. If you're playing in clay courts, for example, I remember playing in Colombia, Peru, places like that. Some courts, they are not well, how can I say, the floor
not flat.
Not so flat. There are some bumps. And I remember in Colombia there was one court, but I think we were only practicing there. The guys were making the line with, I don't know in English, cow in Portuguese, with the white thing to make the line, you know. Mm-hmm. I remember this. And sometimes if it rains a lot, the court is not so good, they put you to play, things like that. And sometimes the hard court is not, it's like not so good. The ball goes fast and doesn't bounce well. But it's a futures. You have to pass through futures to start to play challengers, to start to improve your game. You have to play in these places. There's no other way to start.
Before we talk about your second part of your career, I still want to stay with the tennis for now. What about any crazy, like, angry moments from an opponent that you saw that really, like, affected you maybe? Do you remember anything like this in your career?
I remember some tough opponents. For example, if you're playing like the first seed, I passed quali. It was common for me. I had to pass quali and then in futures play like first seed. And then the play start very tight, and then she calls the physio and say she's not fine and start to complain of everything, you know. Things like this happens. But I don't remember something very different.
Can you explain, Renata, as well, though, how this can affect you? So let's say you're winning against a higher seed, and maybe you're up a set in a break, or you're up a set and you're in a good position, and then something like that happens. Tell us how this can change the dynamic of the match, especially for you mentally.
It's difficult because you are in a already not so nice situation. You're playing like I don't know where in the world alone, and you have like 3 or 4 weeks in this city or in this country to play. And also the situation during the match is not easy. So you start making mistakes. I remember one time I was playing qualis in Israel, Tel Aviv. I play in Tel Aviv. And the court was a hard court, in Israel's hard court. And then sometimes the girl hits like a forehand winner, but it's a little bit out. And I say, out. And her coach, no, it was good. You have to go there. No, doing these things in the match. And I said, my God, it's so difficult. I'm here in Israel alone, and I have to deal with this stupid coach paying during the match. And it's not easy, but it's like this. Tennis is the competition, the level is very high, and in women, it's especially, I think it's even more competitive because it's very difficult to have like friendship. For men, I think they play, and when the match is finished, they are okay, they are friends again.
Yeah.
They go out for lunch together, but for us it's more difficult. I don't know.
I did do an interview last year with a guy from the men's tour who was he got to 127 in the world. A guy called Connor Nyland. He had a book that came out last year as well, and he did talk about, Renata, some of the difficulties. Financial difficulties, he talked about loneliness as well, being
loneliness
on his own. Tell us a bit about that, Renata.
Yes, it's very expensive for you to play, but there is no other way. In the beginning, you talk to your father, I don't know, your uncle, you teach tennis, you raise the money, I don't know, because there is no other way. No one will sponsor you if you're not so good. So you have to think about where you're playing, how much it will cost, and what you can do to make everything cheaper. I remember we played in Nigeria. I went with another Brazilian girl. Sometimes we cook it in the room. We had a small, I don't know, baker. It's not baker. I forgot the word in English.
Like a small oven?
Yes,
or microwave?
Yes, I think so. To make the food. And many things we used to do. Buy only at night, only eat bread and cheese. And we try to the cheapest hotels. But I think nowadays, at least in Brazil, there are more tournaments. At the time that I used to play, there was less tournaments. It was more difficult. We had to travel to other countries, far countries. And yes, of course, and the loneliness, there is no other way. It's difficult to afford one person. Imagine coach and physiotherapist. No, this is not possible. You have to go alone, and you have to manage to practice if you lose, especially if you lose in the beginning of the week. you have to find a way to practice for the next tournaments.
So tough mental challenges, and of course you had one of your biggest sort of opponents was in the form of Irina Camelia Begu.
Yes.
She reached a career high of 22, and she's probably like the highest ranked player that you came across. Did you play her in Romania?
Yes.
Tough.
Yes. Yes, but it was nice to see that she was much better than me. And I had to practice more to play against a player like her. But it was very nice to play in Romania because I could practice with many girls. And I could see that they had standards of match, of the strokes. They look very similar. The girls from Romania, from Ukrainian girls. They had the same the way they hit the ball. It's similar. They have in I think this is very important for you to create a good player. You have to teach him the best biomechanical skills. So maybe if you practicing, if you're a coach of 10 boys or girls, you teaching them, they are practicing, they are playing tournaments. One will be good, I think. At least one, I think they have this mentality. At least someone will go further, you know. I think it was a very good, very nice experience because I have these thoughts in my head, but when I saw them very close to me in the practicing every day, and I could talk to the girls, they used to tell me, so not all the girls are nice, but some, they will talk to you, they will say what they think about your match. There was a girl that she said, you have to be more aggressive. Your ball, it's not so heavy. This way, it's difficult for you to play longer the professional circuits. It was a very nice experience in this way to be close to them, to this kind of tennis mentality.
Okay. I have another question as well. What about clothes and kit? And did you ever have anyone giving you stuff like from a sports manufacturer, or did you have to pay for all that as well?
I remember that my tennis rackets, it was like this. I could buy with a half price, the tennis rackets. Okay. I remember I played with Prince sometimes and Head. I remember, but I could buy like one and receive another one, or receive two more. I remember something like this. But clothes, I remember I bought cheaper, cheaper than it's supposed to be.
So like a discount, you got a discount.
Yes. I had discount, but I really needed the money.
Yeah, and that's a problem. I mean, at the end of your career, Renata, do you think you probably spent more money than you earned?
Of course. I spend more money, of course. But that's like this. It's like this. You have to think in Brazil, at least. You will, instead of paying for college, you will pay for tennis. And you establish like 2 years. I don't know. I'll try for 2 years doing this with the best I can do, doing everything that I can.
How old were you when you finally retired, hanging up your racket?
I was 28 years old, but I quit when I was 20 something, and I came back when I was 24, I think.
Okay.
I quit.
And what about the decision to finally quit? Was it a difficult one?
Yes, but it was very difficult to continue spending a lot of money, and I thought it was very difficult. Maybe if it was nowadays with more tournaments, maybe I could teach tennis and then play a tournament and come back, you know. Maybe I could nowadays also in Brazil, I could do maybe college online. There are more options to study online too. but it was very, very difficult. I thought, but I think it was a good experience for me, but I think I wasn't so good to stay longer trying, I think.
What about the second half of your career? How did you go from, playing tennis, finishing your career, and to where you are now as a broadcaster, but also a broadcaster in both tennis and, of course, beach tennis, which is huge in Brazil.
Yeah.
I see it growing all the time. And you work in broadcasting for beach tennis, and of course, you're a beach tennis coach as well. So, talk us about the transition and what you're doing these days.
Yes, it was in the beginning. I started thinking what I can do now. I was studying journalism. I had finished journalism, and I was studying physical education. And I was thinking that I wanted to work in the tennis tournaments, in the press. So I started calling friends to see if someone could help me. And I remembered I called a former player in Brazil, Danilo Marcelino. I don't know if you know him. No. He used to play some long time ago, and he had a company of events. He used to do a lot of tennis tournaments. So I called him, and I asked for a chance, And then I started to work with him. I worked with him for 2 years and a half. And then they taught me how to write, to make all these releases, the articles. They also had a magazine called Tennis View. I used to write for this magazine too. I went to US Open. I remember then, I don't remember the year, 2011 maybe. I don't know.
This picture of you on this picture of you on Instagram. Sorry to go back. The one that I just showed a little while ago is where are you playing here in this picture here?
This was in Campos do Jordão, one of the tournaments of the guy that I worked for from Tri Sports, Danilo Marcelino's tournament. So I remembered that I interviewed Beatriz Haddad Maia at that time, long time ago. She was playing as juniors in US Open. And I interviewed her in Roland Garros, and she was finalist in doubles in juniors. I remember too. And it was very cool time because I could learn a lot of things. And I also started learning how to be... how to talk with microphones, how to be a host in the tour. I don't know how to say. I forgot the word. Like in ceremony.
Feel comfortable with a microphone.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you know Blair Henley, Renata? Are you familiar with Blair?
Who? I didn't understand.
Blair Henley. She does a lot of these like post-match interviews in various countries. She's kind of your equivalent, but in the US. She does a lot of she was just in Dallas last week. So doing a lot of the things that you talk about, like when the match ends and you have to speak to the players, right?
Yes.
And do you feel comfortable nowadays in doing this?
Yes. And what happened was, but I never quit teaching tennis and beach tennis. Never quit. I also continue with teaching because I also like it very much, and I like it to teach young players like 10 to 14 years old to teach them the techniques and everything. And in 2021, I took part of Narra Quem Sabe from ESPN. They chose 5 women in Brazil to learn how to be a sports announcer, how to broadcast a match. And I took a course for 3 months in ESPN with Vanessa Ricci, Fernando Nardini. I don't know if you know them. They are very famous journalists.
Okay.
And then I started thinking about this thing. I've never thought about it, that I could do it. For me, it was a surprise that they chose me. I don't know how. I sent a video, but I never thought they would choose me because I don't know. But then I learned there, and now it's been 2 years, almost 2 years. I work in Play BT. It's a YouTube channel of beach tennis.
Okay.
So we travel to the tournaments and we make the broadcasting, interview the players. And I also, in this beginning of this year, I worked in any sports to broadcast the United Cup. It was the
cool.
biggest experience for me.
Okay. So this is you, in English, we would call it commentating, like live when the match is happening. You know, you're always quiet during the point, right? And then when the point ends, you say
and then
something.
I go, yes.
We sometimes do what we call watch-alongs, which is where we talk, but we keep talking even when the point is happening. But that's because our audience, maybe they're watching on TV at home, maybe they're in their kitchen, maybe they're in their car, who knows what they're doing. So we kind of just can keep talking, a little bit like the radio, where that's the most difficult, I think, Renata, the radio, where they just have to keep just constantly talking. You at least, when you're commentating, you can have a little break while the point happens, all right?
Yes, I am, I don't know in English, narradora and commentating.
So I heard you talk about this when you had an interview on Instagram last week, which was a great interview, by the way. I do suggest people to check that out. But I heard you talking about this in English, narrador. So we say for narrador, that is the commentator.
The commentator
is you're talking about, and you kind of will have an expert, right, for analysis. So
yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
In English, we talk about you being the commentator, where you say, "Oh my goodness, that was an unbelievable serve down the tee." Then the expert will say, "Well, he or she is famous for the big serve down the tee," you know. So that's kind of the expert or the co-commentator or the analyst, I guess you would say one of those words. So narrador in English is commentator.
Commentator, yes. Now I won't forget commentator.
Good. Yeah, but it is a bit confusing because in your commentator, I think, is like the expert. So
yes. Comentarista, it's the expert.
The expert, exactly. Yeah. So actually, this comes to an interesting point, Renata, and I have got a question from Ozan on Twitter, but I'll shape this in a slightly different way. First of all, have you done any interviews with players, or have you done any commentary? Or any live broadcasts in either English or in Spanish?
English and Spanish. After the match is finished, the post
interview.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, if they're foreigners, I have to do in English and then to translate. I did last year. We were working in the World Cup at beach tennis.
Yeah.
And there were some players that I have to do post-match interviews in English and French too. My French is not perfect, but I did my best because they couldn't speak English. And
got it.
I was, I decided to give it a try to my French.
Sure. So I can empathize as well with that. Maybe my Portuguese is good enough to ask the question. So in a press conference, I could probably do the question in Portuguese, but I couldn't really I wouldn't feel confident enough yet to have a fluid conversation. So with this, I could only do that in Spanish or English or maybe German as well. My German is not bad.
Oh, German I can't speak.
No, well, it's a very different language, but in Europe, of course, it's a pretty significant one. But yeah, tell us. I mean, do you feel when you're doing those interviews in either in English or French, or I know you speak some Spanish as well? Do you feel more anxious when you're talking in those languages, when you're live or when you're broadcasting to an audience, or do you feel very comfortable?
Sure. It's been a time. For example, it's been a time I don't speak English now because we only do things in Portuguese and. When I started, like when I told you that I started in 2010, long time ago, sometimes I used to work helping the players and talking to ITF, talking to ATP, and sometimes I had to call or to write an email, something like that. Mm-hmm. But nowadays I don't speak English anymore, so. Sometimes I think, I go like this, I'm thinking.
Of course. But
I have
even
to think.
native speakers, we still do. But yeah. Have you ever had in your broadcasting career? Have you ever had like a really bad moment where you just made a big mistake? You know, you got someone's name wrong, or has
Yes,
your
yes,
yeah?
yes, yes. Sometimes I don't know when I was interviewing a player, but she was not very famous, so I
Okay,
mixed her name. They was bad.
it happened.
I said another name, and she corrected me, and I said,
Hmm.
okay, But
I
sometimes
wanna
we say something wrong.
I want to show you something now. We've got a video of it, and many of the Talking Tennis audience will be familiar with this. And it happened to me last year in a press conference. I'm just finding the video clip now. And yes, basically there was part of the press conference. Okay, I've got it here. Part of the press conference was in French. And as I said to you, I basically speak zero French, but also I speak zero French. But when the French part of the press conference is happening, you know, I'm making notes, I'm thinking about my questions in English, etc., etc. So I want you to watch this little video clip now of me
Okay,
talking to the French tennis player, Clara Burel.
okay.
And what had happened the same day was the French Open draw was that same day. Anyway, this is what happened.
Just one in English. The draw for the French Open was made today. You're going to be playing Kalinskaya.
Oh. I just said I don't want to know.
Oh
So,
no!
yeah.
Oh my God! No, but sometimes I say something wrong too.
Yeah. I mean, the thing
Oh,
was, I just didn't know.
that
This
was
is,
fun.
I know. Renata, this was like 3 days, 4 days before the tournament was going to begin, because this was in Strasbourg like the week before. But I mean, I just thought she's going to find out who she's
But
playing, I'm
I don't
sure. But
remember. I don't understand this. The person
no,
doesn't
me
want
neither.
to know. How come
No.
it's possible? They don't want to know. It's not
But there
possible.
are one or two other players. I think maybe Manarino, Adrian Manarino. Maybe it's a French thing, because Adrian Manarino is another one of those that doesn't want to know his draw, I think. But anyway, it is what it is. Okay, let's move on, Renata. Let's talk a
Yeah.
little bit about Rio Open, which is coming up. The qualifiers begin on Saturday. I'm actually going to
Yes.
be in Rio on Saturday and Sunday for the qualifiers. We got an accreditation, so that's going to be cool.
You're gonna be there.
Yep, going to be there
That's
myself.
wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
I
wonderful.
was there last year as well, but this is going to be my second Rio Open, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Now, I know you've also worked at the Rio Open in the past. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about the tournament and also your experience working there.
Rio Open, it's a huge tournament. It's the most important tournament in South America, the ATP 500 of Brazil. And it's amazing how many players, how many important players have played there. I was a huge fan, I still am, of Rafael Nadal. He's not playing, of course, but I'm his fan. And I was there in 2014 when he was a champion. And I was working with Crionet. I don't know if you know what's the company. This company makes the live scores of ATP, WTA, ITF. They're based in Italy, the Italian company.
What is the name again?
Crionet.
Okay, Crionet, yeah.
Yeah, and they used to have a website, and I used to write in Portuguese and in English for them in this website. And in Rio Open, I was working with them, like doing social media and helping a little bit, something that they need for the central courts. And I worked for 3 years in Rio Open, for 2014, 2015, and 2016. It was a very important experience for me, because I really wanted to be there. It was like a goal in my life to be in Rio Open, working for them, and to see the nicest players, Rafael Nadal, and there was also WTA at that time. I remember watching Bia Maia playing against Sara Errani, one match that she almost won, long time ago. I remember watching Teliana Pereira, and other Brazilian players. and I enjoyed a lot. I think it's a very important tournament for Brazil, but I know now they are thinking about maybe change someday to hard courts. I don't know if
What do you think about? Yeah, what do you think about that, Renata?
I think for them it would be better because they could have better players, because the circuits, they're more at this period of the year, they have more hard court tournaments. But I like clay for me.
Yeah,
me
too.
But
and I listen, my opinion, Renato, is that we have so many outdoor hardcore tournaments and indoor as well that 80% or 90 or 75 to 80% of the tour is like this. I love it when we change to the clay and the grass, and then we go back to the hardcore later on in the year. My preference, Renato, would be to move the calendar a little bit and try and maybe bring Indian Wells and Miami forward a couple of weeks, and maybe put Rio and Argentina back a few weeks.
Yeah, maybe.
So the beginning of the clay court season would be in March, maybe, and it could begin in South America before we then go to Europe with Monte Carlo and Madrid and all those other tournaments. That would be my preference.
Yes, it would be better, I think. I like, because it's so nice, the environment of the tournament. It's so nice, but I don't know what they will decide for the future. I think what you said, it would be the best option to put the clay tournaments together first.
Yeah, me too. I think so. Talking about this as well, I mean, it's incredible that we have a continent as large as South America. So that's going from, say, Ecuador down, really, or Colombia down from the top, not including Mexico. So for South America, we've got this vast continent with a huge amount of interest in tennis, as you know, and we've got no WTA 250s or above. I think the biggest is like 125, maybe in Buenos Aires, that we have on the tour. So no, basically main tour WTA events, and we only have now, with the loss of Rosario in Rio, in Rosario, we now lose that 250 there. So we've got Santiago 250, Buenos Aires 250, and Rio 500, which for me is almost nothing for what is such a tennis-loving part of the world.
Yes, it should have more tournaments of WTA. Rio was a long time ago. We also had WTA. I don't remember how many years they had. 3, maybe 4.
I mean, it would be great, Renata, to have. I know there's a lot of talk about Buenos Aires going up to a 500 or Rio up to 1,000. And maybe that's what's going on behind the scenes, that they look, you can, if you make it hardcore, I don't know. But what would be great is if we had a double 500 in Rio. If you had WTA 500 and ATP 500.
Yes, it would be wonderful. Yes.
Would be amazing.
As a woman, I would like to see.
Me too. All right, let's move on to Joao Fonseca. He's going to be one of the biggest stars, if not the biggest star in so many ways, as the home favorite here in Rio next week. He's obviously in action right now. I haven't seen his latest score.
Yeah. Let's see the scores.
I'm going to see it now. Oh, bad news is that Coria won the first set.
Yes, I'm seeing. He won the first set.
Good news is that Fonseca is up by a break in the second. Anyway, so it may well go into a third set, and then we'll see. And I have got a question for you, which is very similar to what I was going to ask you anyway, but it's from Ozan on Twitter. What is your opinion of Joao Fonseca's basically peak level? And can he win multiple slams in the future? And if so, which do you think might be his strongest Grand Slam?
I think he's so good for us in Brazil. He's like a star, and everybody here is happy, and everybody wants to play more tennis nowadays. I'm going back to teach more tennis now. I think most because of him, because he is playing so well. He has an aggressive style of match, strong. His ball is very strong, and he's very young. And also, when we look at him, as if we hear what he says, he looks mature for his age, and also he looks prepared. If you look his strokes, of course, it's his second year as a professional. But last year he was from 700 to 145 in the rank. It was it was something very important. And everything that he has achieved, next Jam finals, his victory against Andrei Rublev in Australian Open, and everything. He's a fantastic player, but I don't know in the future. I hope he can win a slam, maybe Australia or US.
You think
US
hard court
Open.
will be his best chance?
Yes, I think maybe. I think his strokes, I think he's very fast, and he's very courageous. It's okay.
Yeah, courageous. He's brave.
Yes,
Yeah.
courageous. So I think with the time, he'll have more experience. Of course, he doesn't have so much experience now. In Rio Open last year, he made quarterfinals. It was a very important result for him. He received the wild card and did this. It was very important. But I'm not so sure, because I think with the time, he will be each year better. But we don't know about the future. I hope this will happen. He will win a slam. But it's hard to say. For example, he will win this tournament or the next tournament. Because he's very young, and it doesn't matter if he doesn't win now. He has time. I think in 4 years, maybe if you think like in 4 years, he will be, if nothing happens, if he doesn't have, how can I say, if he doesn't hurt himself, doesn't have some physical problem, if nothing happens, in 4 years, he'll be very, I think at least top 20. I think.
I'm seeing some comments on your Instagram live. I'm actually even communicating with some of your followers, just saying hello. Don't worry, I'm looking after your Instagram. I'm your PR today, Renata. I can see there's some very nice compliments for you. So do give Renata a follow on there. I will also post it in the description shortly, your Instagram account, so we can keep up to date with what you're doing. There is actually a question about and tennis, both on Twitter, on Talking Tennis, but also I can see on your Instagram as well. Do you think Joao maybe also, he's following in the footsteps of Google Curtin, for example, the biggest male player, I would say, in Brazilian men's tennis history at least? Do you think as well that Joao can inspire more, kids across Brazil, for example, right now, and Brazil is growing? Because the comment I can see in English on your Instagram is that maybe the concern is that there's plenty of places to practice, but maybe there's not enough academies to grow as a tennis player in Brazil.
I don't know. I think now, yes, of course, we had Guga. He won Roland Garros 3 times, was #1. But now things are different because of social media. More people are seeing his results. More people will see him playing Joao Fonseca matches. So the impact it's bigger, I think, because it's easier to follow him. And concerning the academies in Brazil, yeah, maybe in the future, I don't know if he will keep practicing where he is now, or if maybe Guga is king. Yes, Guga is the king of Roland Garros, of course. He's our hero.
He got that win, before the era of Rafa Nadal.
Before Nadal.
Yeah,
before
right.
Nadal. That was great too.
And an example of Guga's appreciation here in Brazil and in Rio especially. I saw him for a couple of the matches, or at least one matches last year in Rio, and he stood up and waved to the crowd. And honestly, it was the biggest cheer of the day amongst the crowd. That particular, I think it was the Saturday of the semi-finals that he was there. Of course, we had last year Carlos Alcaraz participating, and of course he got injured last year, and then but this year he stayed in Europe to play Rotterdam. But this year we've got some other big players, obviously in the form of Zverev, and I think Holger Rune will be there. But listen, it's all going to be next week about Joao Fonseca. I'm almost thinking, listen, if he loses today against Coria, And he's facing a break point as we speak right now against Korea. If he loses, at least then he'll be here for practice quite early, and I might catch him this weekend.
Yes, of course. Yes.
But otherwise,
it's difficult. He's playing Federico Coria. I've seen him, Coria, playing the tournaments that I work in a tournament in Campinas, ATP Challenger of Campinas. Every year.
A couple of weeks ago,
it was this last year. It was in October. It was a Challenger 125,000. I don't remember.
There was a challenger about 3 weeks ago near Sao Paulo, but I don't remember the name.
Piracicaba. I worked there too, but not this year. I worked last year.
Yeah.
Yes, I worked. It's this company that I said that I start working in events, Trisports. Danilo Marcelino, Marcos Bordon, they're my friends, and Nelson Aerts. They run the company. And I've seen Coria playing many times. He's very smart player. Maybe you look at him.
YouTube as well.
Maybe you look at him, you think, he's not so good, but he's good. And he knows how to play, and he looks the opponents, and he thinks what he can do to win the match. He's very smart playing.
What we are seeing with Joao is some incredible highs at the moment on the main tour, like against Andrei Rublev is clearly the biggest result of his career so far.
Yeah.
But also that result against Echeverri, where the winners were just the whole match.
Yesterday.
And then sometimes it's quite difficult to be consistent and then follow it up with another win, like in Australia when he loses to Sonego in the second round. And who knows, today against Correa as well, where he's having a few issues at the moment, as we can see. And that, of course, is normal at his age, right?
Yes, it's normal. I think for me, the most important thing that he continue and nothing happens to him, with his body and things like this, and he can continue in the same way in progression, and thinking about in 2 years, playing three, as I said, in two up to 4 years, to be in a very good upper level, to be playing with the best players in the world.
Yeah. We've spoken to him a few times on the channel. We had an exclusive with him at Surbiton, which is a challenger just before Wimbledon. We interviewed him. And also I've spoken to him myself in a few mixed zones in Estoril, for example, last year for the ATP 250. And he does seem to be very mature for his age.
Yes, what I've heard for his interviews is that he's very mature. And it seems like he doesn't feel so much pressure, because in Brazil, everybody, everywhere you go, they're talking about him. And people sometimes are not so nice. If he loses, for example, they say something not good. Like,
really?
No, for example, for Beatriz Haddad Maia, if she doesn't win, it's a problem because she's the only woman the best women of Brazil that's in the top 20. There's nobody else. So all the attentions are for her. All the attention's for her. And for Joao Fonseca, everybody's talking about him. So it's difficult because there's not so many players people can watch here thinking of they will be very good. Of course, we have other players, Thiago Wilde, of course, Thiago Monteiro. There's Laura Pigossi, Luiz Stefani, Carolina Meligeni. Of course, there are other players. They're good. But nowadays, it's only Joao Fonseca they want to talk about. It's difficult to keep this to yourself. All the country is, the hope of the country is me, he maybe thinks. And it seems like he's okay with that. He's dealing with all this pressure and he's okay.
Absolutely. I in Estoril last year, he lost to a British player, Jan Huinski. But his interview, we spoke to him in the mixed zone afterwards, and I remember both my colleague Damien and myself, the biggest thing was his maturity. He's like, listen, I'm not going to win every match. This is all part of the journey. As you can see, some of the things I'm showing on the screen from last year. Yeah, he just understood that as I've said, yeah, here we go. Joao Fonseca shows a lot of maturity despite loss to Huinski. And that is maybe arguably almost as impressive as the forehand that we know is so good from him.
Yes, it's so fast. My God. Yesterday I was watching his match against Echeverry yesterday. My God. The ball was so fast. It was amazing.
Maybe, as Sean on YouTube highlights here, one of the things that he will have to sort of always have to deal with is when he's got these big weapons, such as the forehand, that's going to be quite difficult to know when to use it. He's going to have to think a little bit, like with all the weapons that Carlos has. Sometimes I think, it's almost that he's got too many weapons. And so Joao's going to have to think about that. But at the moment, his progress is going just perfectly. Renata, can you tell us anything about Joao's background, like in terms of as a kid, where he comes from? I know he's from Rio. In Rio, they use the word carioca as a sort of a name.
He's from Rio. I don't know so much about him. I know that he won US Open as a junior in 2023, and he was #1 in juniors. But I didn't remember so much of him playing. I don't know much. I don't remember so much. He's very young.
It's funny because I've spoken to quite a few Brazilians that work in tennis as well, and they say the same. They're not even I think his club that he grew up in was a pretty exclusive one in Rio, but it wasn't like he was practicing at the Jockey Club where they have the tournament, or it wasn't like he was practicing in Lema, which is a club that I'm familiar with. And by the way, I played on a tennis court once in Rio, and the views were incredible. But maybe the bounce was when you were talking about some of those funny bounces. It did have a couple of. There was one part of the court which had too much clay on it, and so the ball would sort of bounce and then die. But to be honest with you, listen, we're just amateurs, but the view was so unbelievable that we didn't care.
The view was unbelievable. The view is unbelievable in Rio. It's a wonderful city. Amazing
city. It is a wonderful city, yeah. And I know, of course, you're based in Sao Paulo, but we look forward to having you in Rio again someday soon. Listen, Renata, I said to you we might speak for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or 30. It's been over 45. I want to say a big thank you for joining us on Talking Tennis today.
Oh, you're welcome. It was a pleasure for me talking to you, John. It was a nice experience, and I hope we can talk later one more time.
I'm sure we'll catch up again sometime soon, maybe after the Rio Open or later on in the year. Maybe when Joao wins the US Open, we'll get you on again and we'll have a chat about
after he wins the US Open, imagine. Oh my God. Yes.
Ozan here is asking about your Instagram. Do let us know what that is, by the way.
My Instagram, I don't know how to say in English. _Renata _Dias. I don't know how to say in English.
I'm going to copy and paste it right. Just a second. I'm going to get your Instagram form, Renata Dias. I'm going to copy and paste it. There's a few Renata Diases around. I need to probably put tennis in. Here we go. Yes, I can see it now. It's @_. You're right. @_ Renata Dias with 2 S's.
Yes.
I'm also going to share it on the screen so we can see.
Yes.
There we go. And there we go on the screen for you. So there you go, Ozan, and anybody else who's watching, you're welcome. Do check out Renata on Instagram, where you can see she's got a good following, a lot of stuff about beach tennis, but also a little bit about tennis too.
Yes. But now I'm returning more to tennis too. I'm teaching more tennis now, and I hope to work more with tennis this year if I have the chance.
With the Brazilian surgence of Joao Fonseca. And who knows, maybe we did mention her a couple of times. Beatriz had admired, mustn't be forgotten. You said you've spoken to Beatriz, or you've come across her a few times, right?
Yes, I spoke to her in this Roland Garros. I think it was 2013 or 13, I think. She made finals in juniors, in doubles. And I talked to her. It's been a long time. She was just in the beginning of her career.
How is she as a person?
How? Sorry, you understand?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about her character.
Oh, she's very nice woman. and she's very sweet. She's polite, and she loves tennis. She's been through a lot of things in her career. She had some issues with her physical problems.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's been top 20 for 2 years. But sometimes she loses some matches, I think, that happens to her. I don't know what she could do now to make more. I think she needs to be more regular, to have more consistency. Yes, consistency. But she's a very, very kind person. If you ask something, she tries to help or to say something. She arrives in a place, she says hello to everybody. She's kind. And I love her match. I think in the future it could be better, of course, but what she has achieved from us, thinking about Brazil, she has already achieved many things. She has WTA titles, semifinals in Roland Garros. So for us,
yeah, that was the
difficult.
closest. That was the closest she got. Of course, she loses to Iga, but it was a great match. I think it was straight sets, was it? But it was close.
Yes, it was close, I think. I don't remember the scores, but
I remember there was at least a tiebreak, I think, in the second set that was really exciting. And yeah, it was actually a great semi-final and was much more competitive, even though it was straight sets than the scoreline suggested. But yeah, fingers crossed she can maybe make a final one day. Renata, as I said, we've had you on the show for probably double the amount of time that I suggested. So I just want to say a big thank you for staying with us for so long.
Oh, you're welcome. I love it. Thank you
Great.
for the opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you, Renata. As I say, make sure to give Renata a follow on Instagram. And for those of you also watching via the Talking Tennis stream, you know the drill.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.